some ASMR for us as I open my yerba mate. Have to turn the tab to the side because that's how it works. Now we can begin.
So Shannon, I have a question for you.
Oh no, I was gonna have a question for you. That's kind of funny. Anyways, hit me.
Have you ever cried during sex?
Oh my god, so many times. Like literally. I remember there was this time where I was hooking up with this guy and I felt really bad because in the middle of sex, I literally just said, like, I just stood up and told him to get out immediately. And he was terrified. He was like, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? And I just was literally like, you need to leave. And the second my door shut, I was just bawling, like crying, shaking. I've had times where I've been having sex with a partner, like someone who, you know, I am physically intimate with actively, and even with someone who I felt super comfortable with. Like I've just all of a sudden started shaking while having sex and like needed it to stop immediately. But like that's like super normal, right? Like that happens to everyone, right? It's like chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that happens to you too?
So, you know, it's happened a few times here or there. Maybe more often than I'd like to think. But that's just a product of trauma, man.
Hashtag sexual assault.
Hashtag sexual assault.
Yeah. I feel like that was kind of a big answer. I think, Lauren, for you, I'm going to have to really pull shit out of you. Lauren does this thing.
It's hard to get me to talk about things.
Yeah. Lauren does this thing where, like, you know something exciting happened, or, like, you remember, like, oh, she went on a date with someone, and then she just won't talk about it unless you bring it up. Like, I have to literally be like, oh my gosh, wait, you found out that your father was alive or something? And you thought he was dead. This isn't a true thing. But this is just, like, you wouldn't even say anything because you're very mysterious in that way.
Okay, well, to be fair, that's because whenever I prance over to Shannon's house, like morning after anything happens, and you just like want every single little dirty detail.
But I'm talking about like aside from just sex things, like I'm talking all details of your life, like important things that happen. Sad, happy.
I tell you important things.
I know, but it takes a while. Sometimes. I'm not mad. I'm just saying.
It's just my brain processes
You're quieter.
Slowly. So it's like, this thing happened. I need to take some time to process it before I share. You know?
Yeah, that's good. That's probably healthier. Wait, do you think you do process, though, before you share? Because from my experience, you just seem to share and then process seems delayed.
It's super delayed. Something will happen to me and then I will process the emotional aspects of it about a year later. And then all of a sudden wake up one morning and I'm like, wow, I'm feeling really fucking sad today. I have no idea why. And then like be like, maybe it's because of that one thing that happened a million years ago.
So you're a delayed processor, but because you don't process things in the moment, it still ends up impacting you later on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's just like if something happens to you and you have any sort of like emotional reaction to it, and instead of like actually taking the time to deal with it, you just lock that shit up in a box and bury it deep inside your brain. Eventually, it's gonna bite you in the ass because
come back up.
You're not dealing with it.
Right.
And you're gonna have to deal with it eventually. It's just a matter of when, not if.
So if that's true, and you clearly understand this, like, do you think it'd be easier if you just started to, like, hunker down and process things right after they happen? Or is that a problem for later Lauren?
That's a future Lauren problem. I don't even think, like, I know how to do that. I think that, like, I've gotten better at that, for sure. Like, I've worked on that a lot, where it's, like, something happens, I'm feeling something right now, let me just take the next 10 minutes, like, sit here and feel this. I've gotten a lot better at that, but it's definitely hard because, like, I think that having, like, very strong emotional reactions can be very scary for a lot of people, including myself. So, like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking push that shit away so that it doesn't bother me, and I'm gonna, like, pretend like I don't care, or, like, it's not having an impact on me. And, like, it's kind of just, like, I would say, a negative coping mechanism to deal with things. But I feel like I'm much more actively aware that I do that now. And so I don't, like, I think I have a bit of an easier time processing information and processing emotional reactions to things and allowing myself to have the time to do that.
Oh, good. Lauren is growing.
She's growing up.
She's growing up. No, that's good. I think there's also something to say to like separating, you know, like when something bad happens or traumatic or just something big and important in your life, it's hard, at least for me, to not like really sit in that. Like it will affect my work. It will affect school. It will, well, I don't go to school anymore, but you know, it will impact like when I'm spending time with friends, I'll be thinking about that thing. And so there is something to like being able to separate. Like the boxes are not necessarily like a bad thing, but and other things in life. Like if someone dies, like you have to deal with that shit because frankly, I think other people don't give you a long timeline to deal with it. Like I think when like somebody dies, okay, and then your whole like friends, family, they're all like taking care of you and helping you out, and then a year later it doesn't matter anymore. Like for you, you know, like, oh, this person died. Like it still hurts, but for everyone else, it's just like, well, why are you still on it? Like people aren't bringing you flowers anymore. People aren't saying like, I'm so sorry for your loss anymore. People aren't saying, hey, how are you doing since so-and-so passed away? Like people expect that your processing timeline is like super short. And so I'm kind of like, shit, you got to take advantage of other people allowing you to process, because if it catches up to you later, they might not give you the space to like process and like talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Did that make sense? I don't know if that made sense.
No, that makes sense. Well, it's like basically what we were talking about before, where it's like, oh shit, I was sexually assaulted 2 years ago, and now I'm sitting here like crying after I'm having sex with someone.
Right.
What the fuck? Like my mourning period is over. Like I should not be feeling this way. I should not be like stressed or having an emotional reaction to this. Like I should just be fine because like this shit happened so long ago. It shouldn't impact me anymore. Like why am I feeling upset? Why am I feeling trauma and like all that stuff? And that goes into like what I said before, like we hold trauma in our body, and then we experience triggers that can like set off. It's like not even like a mindset. It's like an actual feeling you get like in your body.
Right.
It's like really hard to explain, but like you think like, oh no, like I should be all good. Like this, you know, it happened so long ago, and then it's like these reminders of no, like this is a part of your life. Mm-hmm. It hurts. You've learned a lot of ways to like heal and process and deal with it, but that doesn't mean it's not still there. And so then you end up like having to have these like conversations with people that like you're sleeping with or like interested in or you like, because you know your like reactions to things are gonna like definitely vary from probably any of like their previous sexual partners and things like that.
Yeah. And also, like, I always felt like anytime that I've had a sexual experience and had a sort of like flashback, any type of like shaking or whatever, I always am like mad. Like, I get angry. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how am I letting this person who raped me like have this much power over something that should be really enjoyable? Like, why am I letting someone take away my current sexual experience because they, like, this other person raped me? Like, that was always really frustrating to me. And I felt like I've texted you before, like, hey, do you like, you know, cry during sex sometimes? Do you like start shaking? Do you have like start to feel numb? And you're like, yeah, I experienced that. But I, like, all of my friends that I know who have been sexually assaulted, which is frankly a lot, which is really sad, but like none of them had really talked about, like, you know, you might really freak out in the middle of sex, and it could be with someone you feel safe with. It could be someone that's new. It doesn't matter. It can happen at any time. And it just like makes me angry. You know?
I think like well, I think like what's so frustrating is that like even with people we are like very comfortable with, it still happens. Like the last time it happened, like the last time I cried during sex, like it was like with my boyfriend, and that was someone who I did feel safe with in a physical regard, and like didn't worry about anything like that ever happening. And for some reason, I still was just like, holy shit, like, I've slept with this person, like, 30 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I have done, like, all of this stuff, and I've, like, been, like, very in control or very, like, comfortable and, like, enjoying myself. And all of a sudden, one random night, you just, like, all of a sudden start crying in the middle of sex with someone you've had sex with a million times, and it, like, doesn't make any sense in your brain, and, like, you're just, like, sitting there and you're, like, crying, and you're like, I'm so sorry, like, I don't know, I don't know why you're like a sad little puppy, you're just, like, sitting there with your head down, and you're like, I don't know what's going on.
The men are like,
they're like, oh my god, like, what did I do? And you're like, you didn't do anything.
and they're like, I need to know, like, I've experienced, they're like, well, I need to know so that, like, if this happens again, like, I can avoid that. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't. It's like the fucking train is coming and you cannot stop it.
You cannot stop it.
It does not matter, like, what position you're in or if you do something differently, like, it will just happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That shit hits you like a train. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm having a great fucking time right now. And then 5 seconds later, it's just like,
Yeah, I
it's
remember.
like a slap in the face, you start crying. Like, but not even like a sniffle, like you're tearing up. I'm like bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
Like uncontrollably. Like
Shaking.
I can't breathe. I'm like,
Yeah. And they're like, what can I do for you? You're like, nothing. Yeah. I had an ex-boyfriend say one time, like, that he was having sex with this girl and she started crying during sex, and he, you know, consoled her a bit. It sounded like he said, you know, what did I do? Is there anything I can get you? But then afterwards, like, the way he was talking about that previous experience was like, what the fuck was wrong with her? Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, she might have been sexually assaulted at one point, or maybe she had just a bad day and, like, she got emotional during sex. Like,
yeah.
normalize crying during sex and make sure your partner is okay. I mean, as long as it's consensual. Well,
Yeah, let's make that into a slogan.
right. Well, if it's sex, then that's consensual. If it's not consensual, it's actually just like rape or assault. So
No way, really.
yeah,
It's a crazy concept.
Hey, I'm just saying, man. Like, growing up, okay, sex was not really a conversation at all in my household. Like, my mom, like, never brought up sex because I grew up in a really strong Christian household, and the whole thing was, you know, you're saving yourself for marriage. So the only things that I learned about sex were either through internet searches or health class, and health class was very little about lack of consent. Like, literally the only thing they said was, you know, if you have sex and you had said no, but, like, it happens anyways, and you were raped. Like, that was really all they said. The rest of the time in health class was really focused on, you know, STIs and wearing condoms and things like that. But so that was my only exposure to it, right? And then because my parents never talked about sex and there was no conversations around it, it was just like, well, if you're not having sex at all, then you're never going to be put in a position where you might be raped, because, like, how would you even end up there if you're not talking to a man? If you're not
To a man.
Yeah, if you're not talking to a man one-on-one, if you're not allowing them in your bedroom, then, like, you're never going to be raped. So how did I get on this? What were we talking about?
I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. I lost it. But that was my thought. That was the end of my thought.
I think it is interesting to think about how, like, culturally, how you grew up or how your maybe parents discussed or did not discuss sex could, like, impact how you view things later on. Like, for you, it's kind of like, well, sex is not allowed in this household, so, like, rape could never be an option because, like,
it's like a multiple choice, like, sex, no sex, rape, or NA. Like, not applicable. It's just like a not applicable.
That's just not applicable.
It's just an NA.
Which I think is, like, it's interesting. I mean, like, for me, I grew up in a, like, kind of Christian-ish household. Like, I don't really know where we fall.
Yeah, I kind of went to church.
Kind of when I was little, but, like, I don't think sex was really, like, I never had, like, the talk, really.
Yeah, dude. Same. My mom made me listen to tapes. There's these tapes, and they're like, you might get your period one day. I'm like, she wouldn't even talk to me about it, though. put on some fucking tapes and CD player in the car. Anyway, sorry. Never had the talk.
Yeah, I just, like, one time, I don't think my mom really ever brought up the concept of sex. Like, she just didn't really talk about it that much. I later learned that she was kind of just, like, wanted to be oblivious. Like, you know, when I, like, hit, like, 16, 17, like, she knew I was messing around.
She was getting after it.
And she was just like, I don't even want to know. Like, I just don't even want to know. Like, I don't care. Like, I just don't want to know. But then there was, like, I think my dad was kind of the same way. I think this was really funny. I feel like my mom and my dad had, like, switched kind of, like, what you would say, like, typical, like, mom-dad personalities towards, like, their daughter having sex. Like, one time I was, like, making out with my high school boyfriend.
Ew, that's gross.
So gross. And my dad walked in. And he was, like, really pissed. He, like, walks upstairs and, like, slams the door. And I, like, fuck, okay. And, like, make my boyfriend leave. And I go upstairs. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't even know what to say right now. And my dad was just like, I know you're going to have sex. Like, I know. And I'm 17 years old, okay? So I'm pretty young. And, like, he's like, I know you are. Just don't do it when I'm in the house.
Oh, my God. Instead of being like, I'm going to bring my shotgun out and shoot your boyfriend now.
Which is, like, what you'd expect from a father who has an only daughter. Like, it was like, just don't do it while I'm around. Like, he was like, that's disrespectful. If I'm around, don't do it. And then, like, that was kind of, like, I think the only conversation I had with my dad, which I think is normal. Like, what fucking daughter has conversations with her dad about sex? Like, it's not really the most normal thing.
It's true.
I actually could name some people who do, but good for them.
You looked at me like it was me. It is not me. It is not me.
But then my mom was always, like, a lot more concerned about rape. And she would, like, vocalize that. Like, once I, like, got
Takes
to
one to
college.
know one, you know what I mean? Is that the right statement? No, sorry. Shit. Oh, my God. I meant, like, you know, when you've been sexually assaulted, like, you're kind of a little bit more, you're a little bit more.
So do you think that my mom was?
Potentially.
Interesting.
Sorry, the take one to know one thing was a big accident of words. I just was trying to say, like, okay, whatever.
I know what you mean.
Okay, I hope, yeah, fuck. Okay.
That could be true. I've never actually really thought about that.
But she was the parent that was more.
Well, yeah, she was, like, a lot more concerned. Because, like, once I, like, went to college, you know, was 18 and going to be, quote unquote, on my own. Like, she was, like, you know, relaying all these sexual assault stats and, like, just really stressing how basically she just made it seem like college is unsafe. And as a girl, it is not your job to have fun. It is your job to, like, survive. Like,
Hunting Grounds. That's the movie.
That is the movie. She told me to watch that. I did watch that. And then she was just like, yeah, like, don't go to a party by yourself. Like, you have to really watch what you drink. Like, cover your drink. Don't take a drink from a stranger. Like, always be with someone. Like, it was just always like, you need to be alert. You need to be like, you need to watch the fuck out. Because, like, boys.
Yeah.
They're, like, little, like, monsters. Like, she was very clear about that, like, getting into college. And that was when I was just like, like, I don't know what sexual assault is. And in my mind, I'm not going to ever put myself into a situation where that could ever fucking happen to me. Like, me on my fucking high horse over here, I'm like, no.
I'm invisible to sexual assault. Once again, rape is not an option.
It's not an option.
Not in this house.
I'm invincible. Like, I literally thought that in my head. Like, I, like, had no issues going to parties. Like, I loved when guys would talk to me or, like, offer to get me a drink. Like, I loved the fucking attention. Like, it never was something that, like, I really thought about or was worried about, even after my mom saying all this shit to me. Like, I was always just like, no, like, I'm gonna be good. It's not gonna happen to me. I'm fine.
That's funny. Oh, were you done? We both said I'm fine.
Yeah, that was the end of my story.
Oh.
I can't stop burping.
Dude, same. I haven't even had any bubbles. This is my first caffeine. It's 8:15 at night, 8:16 at night, and I'm having my first caffeinated beverage of the day. which is crazy because I have coffee every morning.
That is crazy.
What can I say? I'm transforming to a new woman. I felt like I had a lot of trauma growing up. Okay, a lot of people die. I had my mom got remarried really quickly
Because
once.
Your mother getting remarried can be dramatic.
No, it actually can. You think it's not. It is. Let me tell you. When a man comes into your house and everything's different all of a sudden and you see your mom changing. Shout out to my stepdad, though. He is really cool and I do like him. He's very nice. But at the time, it was traumatic. Anyways, so I had a lot of trauma. A lot of people died growing up. A lot of things happened. And so I kind of thought, you know what? I've cashed in all my trauma chips.
I'm done. Yeah. Nothing bad is ever going to happen to me again.
Yeah, I got into a lot of car accidents, too. I was just I'm good. If everyone in life had, this person will have 3 big traumas and this person will have 6. And it's just mine all happened within the ages of 0 to, 17. And I'm thinking I'm chilling, I'm good. And so, there is this sexual assault stuff. And I'm thinking that sucks. That sounds horrible for whoever that happens to. But thank God it's not going to be me because I've already I've paid my dues. I've been through this other stuff. But so there, and that's a real thought that I had. So there was that naiveness of it's not going to happen to me, but it was also it can't. I've already been through too much for something else to happen to me. Spoiler, it did. I did get raped. You actually have an unlimited number of traumatic experiences that you can go through in life.
Yeah, shout out to all those people who have never been through any trauma in their entire life.
When someone is I love asking people about their childhood on first dates.
So interesting.
Yeah, first dates, I'm finding out what your father did to you, what your mom did to you, who abandoned you, your deepest fears throughout childhood. I know that by hour 1 of dinner on a first date.
Doesn't she sound like a lovely date, everyone?
But the thing is most of the time I could crank some good stuff out of people. Other times people would be honestly, no, my parents were great. They really supported me with everything I did. I talked to my mom every day. No one's died. No. And I'm
huh?
What?
Excuse me?
And all I'm thinking is there's no shot that this person is emotionally mature enough to be with me because they haven't been through shit.
No, it's true. It really is true. Good for them. And I eventually they are gonna deal with some trauma and some bad shit and some sadness and
you got some funk going on in your voice all of a sudden. Sorry.
But it is really hard when you are someone who has been through a lot and we've been through a lot and then
oh yeah, we're related. Sorry, yeah. I'm Shannon.
I'm Lauren.
We're cousins.
We are.
Okay, keep going.
Cool.
We've been through a lot.
We have been through a lot. A lot of family stuff, a lot of deaths, and then also all this rape shit, just the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Trial.
Some drug
Very
stuff. Some suicide stuff. That's death.
Yeah.
Usually it results.
Usually. Not. Okay, I'm so sorry. We laugh about really fucked up things. That's just how we deal. So, yeah, I was in a relationship with someone who had never really experienced anything super bad or traumatic, and so they did not have the emotional maturity that I needed in someone, and they did not know how to really be there or show up for someone who has been through what I've been through. They tried, they did, but at the end of the day, they could never be on my level. They can never relate. And so there was always a disconnect where when I was feeling really upset or when I was feeling really triggered, they were just what the fuck's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah, I get it.
They had an inability to have empathy towards all this shit because they had no way of relating at all on any level. And so it was just constantly oh, I need support, but you don't show up for me the ways that I need you to. And so although I'm so happy for those people who have not been through stuff. Yeah. It's really, really hard to like have I would say like a successful, at least like romantic relationship with people like that. And even friendships, like my strongest friendships, like they're so strong because we have trauma bonded. Like we have done
it's a different
so
time
much.
of trauma bonding than the technical term. Well, hold on, let me rewind. So that was Lauren's ex-boyfriend who really didn't have a traumatic childhood or things like that. Whereas like my current boyfriend, he hasn't had like really any death in his family. And if he has had death, it's been like pretty distant members or people he wasn't close with. Not a lot of trauma there, but he is wickedly emotionally intelligent. Yeah. And so, you know, you have two people who grew up in healthy households with parents that loved them with very small amounts of trauma. I'm not saying they haven't gone through something, but just, you know, trauma, the trauma meter is lower for them, you know? And then one person ends up incredibly emotional intelligent, hasn't really been to therapy much. The other one ends up emotionally dumb. Sorry, no offense to your ex, but emotionally not a lot of emotional intelligence going on there. Like, how does that happen? Why does a similar upbringing end up in?
Yeah. I think that like a lot of, I'm not a psychologist. Like, I don't know anything, but this would be my hypothesis. My hypothesis would be that one, it could be like parents' emotional responses to things. Like if you have like very highly emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature parents, and like that is your threshold, like that is what you grew up with, that's what you saw, that might help you then like grow up with that as well. And like bring that into like the relationships you're in more often. Or it can just even be like intentionality. Like, oh yeah, like I haven't been through a lot of bad stuff, but like when my friends come to me, I'm going to really listen and I'm going to do everything I can to try to understand what they are dealing with. And like, so I think that your boyfriend has like all like those qualities. I mean, I don't know what his parents were like, but he's like so intentional. Like he asks questions, he listens as like, he's such a great listener and like he wants to understand you to the best of his ability. Whereas like for me, like my ex didn't even want to hear about the bad shit. Like he didn't even like, he's like, I don't want my friends coming to me with like bad stuff that they've gone through. Like, I don't want to hear that. That's just going to fuck up my day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's not like he was really listening or having that intentionality like aspect to be able to be more emotionally intelligent and more emotionally mature. Like, I think that was just lacking.
Altogether. Also, that kind of, the way you explain that kind of sounds like it's just completely boils down to being selfish. Yeah. Like if you don't want to take the time to hear about the struggles of other people, like the struggles of close friends, and you just don't want to hear about it at all, like what does that say about you?
How much do you care?
Yeah, like how much do you really care about them? Yeah. Like you're there with them in the good times and when you're sitting in a circle, drinking beer, laughing, but what about when homie's mom has cancer? Like, but then you don't want to hear about it? Like,
you don't want to be there for them. You don't want to support them and show up. Yeah.
And I also just wonder, like, how unfulfilling is that? I'm not saying that I am the greatest person to ever live. But I take pride in knowing that, like, when a friend comes to me and I'm able to listen and give advice and be there for them, like, that feels good to me. Like, that feels like I am nurturing a relationship that I care about. So, you know, if you're not nurturing those relationships, what's going to happen? Like, are you just not going to have any, or are you only going to have relationships with people who are just like you?
Yeah, probably. Because, like, you're going to end up being with someone who also won't share anything real, you know, and that's going to create a very, like, surface level.
Yeah. How do you marry someone like that?
I don't know.
Like, how could,
I don't know how you could have any successful relationships like that. Like, you're never really going to know that person.
That's so
And you're
weird.
never going to, like, take the time to. Like, that's what's, like, so fucked. Like, now, my fucking, like, my expectation, not even my expectation, just, like, my bar is so fucking low. Because, like...
beneath the ground.
It's beneath the ground. It's in a goddamn grave.
It's a bunker. Yeah. She's low.
It's real low. And so, now, like, talking about all this shit and, like, dealing with it, like, sometimes I get sad like sometimes I have like a hard time and like I need to talk to people. But like there's like this inherent fear in me of like, oh, I can't tell the person I'm seeing anything real because they're just gonna like shame me for it or not gonna show up for me or like they're not gonna understand, so what the fuck is the point? Like now I have that in the back of my head of like, like I'm really sad right now, but I'm just gonna keep it to myself because I'm used to someone who wouldn't take the time.
Yeah, because they don't care.
Yeah.
Do you think that was solely learned from your previous relationship? Or do you think that that's a behavior that you learned from other areas of your life? Or like, was it there before your relationship? If it was, where did it come from? Yeah, that was the end of my question. I don't know if that made sense, but...
Well, that was a fantastic question, but I'm gonna pause it right there because I'm about to shit my pants.
Oh my God.
I'm back.
How was it?
Feeling like a whole new woman.
How many times do you poop a day?
Today I pooped twice.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Honestly, 2 or 3 times a day.
Oh, that's really good.
My bowel movements have been like fucking fantastic lately. I think it's because I've been taking probiotics every day.
Really? What kind?
Like gut health ones.
Well, I meant like, is it a yogurt beverage probiotic? Or are you drinking kombucha?
No.
How big is the pill? Because I have these vitamins I'm supposed to take 3 pills twice a day, so 6 pills, and they're like, they're not big honkers, but they're close. And I, every day this week, have said, okay, my mission is just to try to take 3 of them once a day. Like, that's my goal. Mm-hmm. And I put one in my mouth, and I immediately start gagging, and then I spit it out. Like, I shit you not, it has been brutal. So do you think that I could take those that you're taking?
Well, first of all, you have the shittiest gag reflex.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This girl coughs and she'll vomit.
Yeah, it's happened in Lauren's her other cousin on the other side of her family, in her car.
It was so funny.
In the middle of the Bay Area on a main street, literally driving down.
Downtown, people were like sitting in tables on the sidewalk.
Yeah, like picture this small street, small town, small main street, outside tables that are like you could reach out and touch the table basically from the car window. I start coughing, everyone's like laughing at me, and all I'm thinking is no one understands what's about to happen. And I just roll down the window, and the majority of the vomit made it outside of the car, so that was good.
As in, like, literally on the car.
But, like, not on
in the car.
Yeah, there was some on the, like, the handle inside of the car and a lot on my hands. And I just projectile vomited next to people just, like, hanging out and eating breakfast. Anyways, enough about poop and vomiting.
So, yeah, pills. So, I have... Let me give some tips here.
If you have a pooping problem, oh my gosh, Lauren has had some pooping problems, let me tell you.
Talking about pooping. I'm talking about taking pills.
Oh,
now.
I thought you were about to say your entire life you've had some poop problems. Okay. I'm sweating so much. I'm not even hot. Okay, keep going. Sorry. Give your health speech.
This is not a health speech. This is just I, like, my whole life couldn't swallow pills. Like, that shit would not go down. I know it's, like, a mental thing. I just couldn't do it. And I figured out a life hack. So the probiotic pill I take is like this big.
Okay, it's like an inch.
Because it's so massive. And what I do is I like put the pill in my mouth, I turn my head sideways, and I drink out of like my sink. Does that make sense? And then like I like for some reason I don't feel it. And so I just like fill it up and I swallow, and like it's so much easier. I don't know why.
That could be good for me because if I do vomit, I'm already in the sink.
Exactly. That's my pro tip.
Okay, maybe another time you can share your poop story about your trip.
I have ended up in the ER because of my pooping problems.
Okay. My question was to you so your previous relationship, you were talking about how because of the way that your boyfriend reacted when you would try to tell him something, like that was going on with you, like something sad, something important, he would just kind of be like, why are you sad? I don't get it. Why are you talking to me? I don't want to hear about it. And now it's made you kind of reluctant to tell other people about the hardships that you're experiencing in your life. So was that something that was learned purely from your previous relationship, or was it there before?
I think we both know that like it was there before to a certain extent. Like I've always had a hard time talking about shit, which I think that's like probably like a learned thing from like my childhood. Like my parents didn't really ever talk about things and like withheld a lot of emotional stuff from me, and so I think that like it was just like a norm, like, oh, you're sad, like keep it to yourself kind of thing. And then once like I got to like high school and like shit got real, you know, like I like was dealing with a lot of trauma. I wasn't processing it well. Like I was like acting out, you know, like I was a little, not a head case. I was just like I was a tough teenager. And like I started to go therapy, and like there was like, well, you went through all this shit. You need to like talk about it. And that was really my first time. And this is like 16 years old. This is like the first time I've ever like talked about anything real. Like, and it was just like a very new concept for me. So over the past like however many years, I've worked on that a lot, where it's like, okay, yeah, like something has happened. You should be like, I should be able to trust the people around me enough to like talk to them. And I've gotten a lot better at it. But then when your default is like, I default to wanting to hold things in and not tell anyone. And then you get into a relationship where like that kind of solidifies that default. Then I think it kind of like reverses a lot of shit in your brain of like, oh, well, I thought that this was a safe space. I thought that talking about this was a good thing, but I guess it's not. Like you second guess, like I second guessed myself a little bit. And then I think, like anyone, you get out of like a toxic relationship, there's a lot of things that you like hold on to, not because you want to, it's just kind of, that's what you had grown used to. So I think I got used to having someone who was there for me for a lot of it, and then by the end wasn't. And so like that part where he wasn't, like that is what my brain is holding on to, because it's afraid of that happening again. And I think I'm like, it's like just a defense mechanism. Like, well, someone did this to me once. Why not? Like, why would it not happen again? But then I've also had a lot of incredible people in my life, including guys who have like showed me that, no, it's like the stupidest shit ever. Like, you can talk to me about anything. Like, I'll show up for you. Like, I'll be there for you. I have your back. And so I think that even though when I was going through this, I had those people, and that helped a lot. And so I know at the end of the day, no, like I should be able to talk. I should be able to talk about my feelings or what happened. And I need to allow myself to trust these people in order to do so.
Right. It's interesting because I feel like you've spent more of your life in that kind of, you know, I'd call it like a grippy state. The grippy is that you're kind of gripping onto the things that happen to you and have happened to you, and, you know, not sharing them with others. So you spent more time in that state than you have in the state of, I'm going to try to talk more, you know?
Yeah.
Because like recently a lot I've heard you say, hey, I know I didn't tell you this, but I'm really trying to talk more about what I've been through or what I'm going through and my current feelings. And so like you even apologize. You're like, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you these things. It's just hard, which is interesting in itself. Now like you're apologizing for something that's like hard. It's hard to talk about this stuff. It's not easy for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting.
Well, I think I like apologize to you in particular because there's no reason that I shouldn't be sharing these things with you. So it's like if something happens and then the next day you and I are hanging out all day long and we're talking about literally everything, and then I just like don't tell you this like one thing that happened to me the day before, I'm like, well, why the fuck did I not tell you that? Like, that's so stupid. Like, I trust you more than anyone, and I talk to you about like more than I talk to anyone about. Like, there's no reason for me not to be sharing these things. And so then I'm like, oh shit, like that was kind of a mistake in my head of like, I don't know why I did that. Like, it was just like a default thing.
Default.
Default.
I think I read this quote a long time ago, I'm going to butcher it, but it basically was like being close to someone's vulnerability is a luxury. Like being able to have relationships where like relationships isn't friend, family, partner, whatever you want to call it. Being in any relationship and any conversation with someone who is willing to open up and be vulnerable, like you better treat that well. Like you better respect that person. You need to respect what they tell you and what they're sharing. It is not something that should be laughed at. Like it is a true luxury. And I think, when you're in a relationship where it's not respected and that's not treated like it's super delicate and special, then it kind of slaps you in the face. Like, why would you want to be vulnerable if it's not being respected by the other person?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's an honor when someone comes to me and they're like, I need to talk to you. Like, this shit's going on in my life. I feel like honored that they came to me, that they wanted to open up to me and want me to support them. Like, that's a good feeling, and that is how it should be.
I agree. And it takes a bit to get there.
Yeah. Especially with, all this bullshit.
Are you referring to bullshit as sexual assault?
Yes.
Yeah. I found that like in each of my new relationships and friendships, but specifically relationships, with men. It's like I have all of these things throughout my childhood and all these traumas that I need to share with them. Mm-hmm. And it's like okay, when am I going to share it? Because you can't just sit there and I can't just tell them everything in a few hours and just dump it on them. Like that's overwhelming. And so it's this weird thing of, okay, how am I going to spread out my trauma stories? Let's see. And, sometimes I'm like, okay, I've been dating this person for like a month, or I've been talking to them for a month. Like, seems like the time to let them know I've been raped. Like, they seem settled into these other traumas. They've heard the dead dad jokes. Yeah. Like, but it's like a weird sort of vulnerability. Like, I feel bad and weird that I have this whole checklist of traumas that I feel like I need to tell people.
Yeah.
Because it's an important thing. Like, I want whoever I'm dating to know that there are some things in my life that have kind of made me who I am, or have destroyed parts of me. It's important for them to know.
It is important.
It's just weird to have a checklist. Like,
I know, it's like after a certain amount of time, or like you've been like dating someone or talking to someone, you're like, like what have I told this person? Oh yeah, like I told them about that one time. I told them about that. Like, I guess I still need to tell them about like this one and this one and this one. I wonder when that's gonna happen. Like you like actively kind of think about it. You're like, how much do they know? How much do they not know? Yeah. And it's kind of like a weird like, oh, there's this whole part of my life that they have no idea about. And it's just crazy. I don't know.
I also think like I remember kind of the timeline of my life because of traumas. I'm like, okay, well, this event happened, a year after so-and-so died. So it must have been in 2013 or whatever. But for me, I've been on a lot of dates. I'm not saying I was a serial dater at one point, but there was a time where I didn't have a lot of money and I really needed a lot of food. So I went on dates like once or twice a week for a while, just because I'm like, frankly, I need free dinner. And one of the not first questions, but, kind of an early on question that happens is, either what do your parents do or how many siblings do you have? And that was always hard because like saying what my parents do is not too hard to answer, but saying, do I have any siblings was hard because I'm like, okay, if I see myself having another date with this person, I need to be honest and be like, well, I used to have a brother, but then he died. And then I'm choosing to make that person uncomfortable. Like, you don't want to be on a first date with someone and all of a sudden they're like, well, my brother died when I was young. Like, that's a hard thing to say. And then you make the other person uncomfortable. So it was always this choice of, okay, I can either lie to this person and say like, well, I have step siblings now and just leave it at that. Or I can be honest, knowing that I'm going to make them uncomfortable and say what's true.
But if you do tell them the truth and you get a response that is like very emotionally mature, then you might know, okay, this is someone that maybe I'm going to go on a second date with.
That's a good point. So what we're saying is use your trauma on the first dates to figure out if this person is worth seeing again.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly, wow. Yeah, we should copyright that, trademark that.
Patent it.
I don't think you can patent that.
I don't think you can. Seems like a software kind of thing.
Yeah. Or I remember I've been on some dates where I'll say something like, oh yeah, nope, don't have a brother, he's dead. And they'll be like, dude, me too. And then like
immediate bond.
Yeah, the bonding is just crazy. And it's like, dude, I was so worried it was gonna make you uncomfortable. And they're like, no, it's totally good, me too. Or like other times I give this whole preface of like, okay, so you just asked me a really simple question. That was great, thank you. Please don't be upset or sad, but like I don't have, like half my family died one time. Like
one time. Just once.
Well, you know, the chips, like I said earlier, I've already cashed in, or not cashed in, my trauma limit. Hopefully it ends there with the family deaths.
Whoa. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Jesus, please. No more dead people in our family.
Well, it's inevitable, but you know. Well, let's just take this time and do the life updates.
Oh. Well, they don't even know anything, so updates are not updates. It's just us telling them things. Them as in whoever listens to this.
Yeah, but this is me saying life updates for you, because I haven't given you my life updates.
Oh, this is exciting. I haven't gotten a good old life update from Lauren in like 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I'll just do like the near past life updates.
Okay.
We don't have time for all the life updates.
Okay.
But this is just like relevant.
That'll be an off the record thing. The full life update will be off the record.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, this is relevant because like I've been hooking up with someone new.
Ooh. Crazy. Crazy.
And then there's that like inevitable conversation of like you don't have to, but kind of explain why physical intimacy like makes you nervous. Did we already talk about this?
I think we started, but I don't think just keep going.
Yeah, so sex and all that comes with it can make me nervous and can be hard for me sometimes, especially with new people. And so I don't know. I mean, you and I were talking about this in the bathroom last night. But,
oh, yeah, we were.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know. I just haven't basically not necessarily wanted to have sex. Like, I just haven't, like, been, like, really in the mood. And I've been, like, seeing this person for, like, a few weeks. But I've known them for a while. So it's not like they're, like, a brand new person in my life. Like,
not a stranger.
Yeah, they're not a stranger. Like, I've known them for a while. We, like, started hooking up a few weeks ago, but, like, I just, for some reason, I'm like, I just don't want to have sex. And I feel, like, bad about it because, like, you know, it's not that it's, like, a requirement, but it kind of feels like it is sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you start seeing someone, you guys are sleeping in the same bed together, like, and you're not having sex, like, and you're 23 years old, like, what, like, why? Like,
yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And so I've been feeling, like, kind of weird and, like, bad about it. And so I don't know, like last night me and Shannon were talking and she was just like, oh, we'll just like have a conversation with him about it. And just be honest. Like he already knows about like our trial and like things like that. Because like he's a friend of ours, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so just have a conversation. And so like last night I was like, hey, like I just want you to know that like physical stuff can be really hard for me. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just I get really nervous and I just get really anxious. It's not that like I'm uncomfortable, like, or I don't trust you. It's just like I do kind of like get tense and like can't relax and like things like that. And like, of course, like he responded so well. He was just like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like, and we like talked through it and he was like, I'm so sorry. Like if I ever like, but that's the thing is he kept apologizing. He was like, I'm so sorry if like I've ever pressured you or like made you like feel that way or like made you nervous and like all this stuff. And it's like this weird thing of like, it's not your fault. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not your fault. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, but you hate, like, I don't want to be like, it's not you, it's me. But like, it really is. Like, it's like, he has done nothing wrong. He's not like ever pressured me. There's been like that like societal pressure that I've felt of like, oh, I should sleep with him right now. Mm-hmm. Not because he's the one that's like making me feel like I need to. It's just like, I'm like, the situation. Like, I should sleep with him. And he was just like so constantly like worried that he had done something wrong.
Oh.
And it was like so sad. I was like, you haven't done anything wrong. Like, I swear to God. And then like this morning we like wake up and I like, he's like just like staring into the space. And I'm like, hey, like, what are you thinking about?
Place where the wall meets the ceiling.
Yep.
My favorite spot to stare.
We can get into that one later.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, like, what are you thinking about? And he was just like, I just can't stop thinking.
What you thinking about? Sorry. Men's favorite question. Babe, what are you thinking? Sorry.
Nothing.
He's staring at the ceiling.
He's just like staring into space.
Okay.
And
like,
like,
you say,
I'm like, yeah.
What are you thinking?
Like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, I'm thinking about our conversation we had last night. I'm like, oh, what about it? And he was like, I'm just so worried. Like, I'm so worried that, like, I don't know. Because, like, we have had sex. So, like, I'm just, like, worried that, like, I pressured you somehow. Or, like, I did this. And, like, I remember, like afterwards, I have a Garmin watch. And Garmin's, like, they, like, track all your shit. Like, just like an Apple Watch, right? And my Garmin goes off, like, after we had sex. And it was, like, relax reminder. Like, you seem stressed out right now. And he, like, I guess saw it. And he was, like, he brought it up. He was, like, I don't know. Like, we had sex. And, like, now you're mentioning how you've just been, like, really nervous and on edge. And then, like, your, like, watch went off saying that you needed to, like, chill the fuck out. And, like, I'm just, like, I'm just so worried. Like, and I'm, like, I don't, like, what do I even say? It's, like,
how do you get them to not worry?
Yeah. And you can't. And then there's that, like, other layer of it where it's, like, well, I went down this rabbit hole a little bit. And now, like, I feel like they're never even going to make a move on me anymore.
Because they're worried that you're just going to be like, holy shit, I was raped one time and you're going to be brought back every time.
Yeah. And so now I'm like, well, like, I, like, if I'm comfortable with a guy, yeah, like, I love, like grab me and push me up against the wall and kiss me, like, whatever, you know? Like, I like, like, fun stuff like that, but now I'm worried that, like, oh, we had this conversation and now he's going to be too scared to, like, kind of, like, take control or, like, initiate anything because I was like, yeah, like, I get uncomfortable and nervous. And so now he's, like, going to be too worried about making me uncomfortable or nervous or, like, feeling like he's, like, pressuring me. And so it's, like, this, like, weird, like, fine line of, like, how do you make them understand that, like, you want them. It just, like, takes time. And, like, you don't want them to be scared of you. Like, it seems like they, like, get, like, scared of you almost where they're, like, I don't know.
I think... I mean, something that has helped me in the past, it's not perfect. Well, okay, a few things. One, it's a good sign that their immediate response is wanting to make sure you're safe. Like, that's a good thing. It's a far better response than just like, okay, let me know if anything goes wrong. Like, that's not enough.
Just let me know.
Let me know. I think something that's helpful is, so when you're having sex, you should be in tune not only with what you're feeling, but what the other person is feeling as well. And sometimes it's hard because, you know, your eyes are closed or whatever. But something that you can tell them is like, hey, it's not the same every time. But if I start, like, freezing up, if I'm not giving you any other physical, like, reinforcements, like if I'm not touching you or something, maybe that's a sign of, like, something's about to happen. Or, you know, those sort of physical signs, like those physical warning signs, I guess, that maybe you can tell them so that they can just know that that's coming. And also to really drill it into their head, like really drill it in of like, well, I think it's hard for guys to understand kind of female hormones. Like, they don't really get those.
I don't fucking understand female hormones.
I don't think that, you know, men really get random feelings of just like, I'm going to start crying. I don't think they get those, like, I want to have your babies. Like, they don't have those extreme hormonal things that women have. So this overwhelming feeling all of a sudden of a flashback to being raped is hard for them to understand, that it can just, like, come out of the blue and just be random. So really drilling it into their head of, like, this is a physical response to a previous traumatic experience. And, the body remembers trauma. It is something that you cannot always really see coming, and it comes on randomly. And maybe you ask them, like, hey, have you ever just cried randomly and you don't know why? That's the same thing as a trauma response. Like, you don't know why, it just happens. And so when it does happen, give them the tools to help you too. I've had conversations in the past where I'm like, I just literally need to sit there and cry. Like, I need to sit there and I need to shake, and I don't want you to, like, excuse me, sorry, burp. I don't need you to hold me, but just maybe put a hand on my shoulder and just leave it at that. Like, tell them what to do when it happens, like after, like how can they help you after? Because once they understand that there's really no way to prevent it and it's just going to happen sometimes, give them the tools so that they can feel like they're at least helping afterwards. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
What? Why do you look like that?
No, I agree. I think that's really great advice. It's probably definitely easier said than done, as is anything. I think that it can be hard to tell, or for me, it's just I just need to listen to my body, and if I'm tensing up right now, I'm not feeling great right now, I just need to be yo, stop. We need to stop. But right. It can be hard to do that because then you feel bad, and you're well, fuck,
yeah,
I'm not allowing them to enjoy it and finish, and
Yeah, but it takes two to tango. Sex is a two-person thing.
Yeah.
And I think for most men tend to, notice that I said men, not boys. Men, I think, during sex do get more enjoyment when their partner is enjoying themselves too. And so if you're sitting there not having a good time,
hopefully they'll fucking notice that shit.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it just feels so good for them that they don't even notice. But ideally, they would notice and they would be like, whoa, wait. No, red light. Maybe even a safe word. Maybe that's a good thing.
Do you have a safe word?
No, I do not have a safe word. That I just was thinking that could be good. Do you have a safe word?
No.
Okay.
I feel that's something you have, if not me, you might have if you're in a relationship. Or maybe your relationship's just so strong that you can be yo, stop.
No, I think I still get nervous to say things like that. And it's not really a them thing, it's a me thing. And I think it's just a history of people responding, not even poorly. It's more about how I think they will feel than it is about how they really respond. It's just straight up me projecting onto them. Yeah.
How self-aware of you.
Thank you. Kind of want to move off the sex topic.
Okay.
I don't know how long we've been doing this for.
59 minutes and 32 seconds.
Okay. Frank, I feel like this could be a good place to stop.
This could be a good place to stop.
Yeah.
I feel like we need an ending.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, guys.
Tune in next time, and you can listen to us talk about more random ass shit.
Yeah, thanks for listening to our first official episode. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'm just this is kind of fun. I feel like Lauren and I have tried to sit down and do this actually a few times, and it's been kind of hard. Talking in front of a microphone is challenging, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time tonight. I hope you did.
Yeah.
And I hope anybody listening got at least something from this podcast. I don't know what. If anything, maybe it's take your probiotics, or if you have to swallow pills, swallow them sideways while drinking from the sink.
Yeah. It works, guys. I'm telling you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Peace out, y'all.
You.